Chelsea fans, welcome back to Talking Chelsea. Welcome back to your Chelsea news. Andrey Santos talks his best position and adapting to life at Chelsea. Garnacho has been impressive behind the scenes at Cobham, and Chelsea have been linked with 3 more strikers. Now, of course, I begin my own thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported, but more importantly, I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments. And before we get into the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content. We're on the road to 15k by the end of the season. You can also use the new YouTube hype feature, which pushes this video out to a bigger audience. Kicking things off, Tabutius, I think that's how you pronounce it. Apologies if it's wrong. They have reported what Andrey Santos has said on his best position. He said, "This is a hard question because when I was young, I liked to play in the 6. In the Premier League, it's a little bit different. I can play in both positions, number 6 and number 8. I think the most important thing is helping Chelsea and helping my teammates. If the coach wants me to play like a number 6, I will do my best. And if he wants me to play like a number 8, I will do my best too." Chelsea did a recent interview with Andrey Santos and he speaks about adaptation and he said, "Personally, I think it was my process. Estevao has another process. He came from Brazil and adapted very effectively, so now he plays. For me, it was a little bit different. I was on loan at Forest and then at Strasbourg and now I'm here. So I think it's a process. You have to keep fighting because it's our dream of our families too. You have to keep fighting always. I arrived here young like Estevao and I know how difficult it is to be here in the Premier League if you're 18 years old and I try to help him the maximum I can. We are always together in the training ground and outside too. Our relationship is perfect because we always go to the national team together, so we do a lot of things together. I think it's important to go on the pitch with this relationship." Now, I absolutely love hearing things like this. You guys know that have been subscribers for a while that I just love the behind the scenes stuff. It's the little windows of, glimpses that we get and hearing more about it. I don't know, it helps develop a connection with these players. And, a lot of fans online are saying that we have like the Brazilian Trinity. You've got, Santos, you've got Estevao. You've got João Pedro and how well they get on really well together. And it's very evident when you see them on the pitch and they're happy and celebrating. And also in their national teams, they're always together as well. And I think it does really help develop a relationship. And I think it's very important what Andrey Santos said, not only about his best position, but also about his adaptation to the Premier League. Because for a lot of fans, we forgot he was on loan at Forest. We forget that he was at Strasbourg. Well, not forget that he was at Strasbourg. We know we sent him there. But that's also part of his process. It's very, very different to Estevao's. Now, whether that's a skill issue in terms of different levels of abilities at the time for the ages of the players and them being different players completely in terms of the roles they play, or was it more of a process of adapting to this side of the world rather than where you were from in Brazil? Who knows? Maybe it's a mixture of the both, right? But with Andrey Santos being able to play in a 6 or an 8, I personally like him in a 6. I also like him in an 8. I'm very much agreeing with Santos. I feel like he has the skill set. He has the wheelhouse to be able to play both of those positions. We saw him briefly in that number 10 role, and I wasn't much of a fan. He did look very confused in that 10. It looked a bit far forward, a bit more of an advanced role, whereas in that 8, he's kind of still a little bit deeper but can push forward, if that makes any sense. And I like him as a 6. I like him as a 6, supporting the likes of Caicedo, supporting the likes of Lavia, supporting the likes of Enzo. I think it can work very well in any sort of dynamic of a partnership that he can form in that part of the pitch. And I feel like he has the skill set of an 8 to be able to drive the ball forward and the passing range. But I like his defensive aggression and I like his defensive position. And I like the fact he's not afraid to get stuck in. When we went and battered Forest 3-0, he was at the heart of all the pressing. He was at the heart of all the pressing and breaking things down in that midfield, which is a little bit further back than that 10. At times, he just kept looking at the sidelines and was kind of like, where am I meant to be? What am I meant to be doing? So I feel like he wasn't as comfortable. But look, I like him as a 6, I like him as an 8. When it comes to the process, like I said, of him adapting, Estevao just seems to be a unicorn player where he has all this ability, all this talent, and he seems to have just slotted straight in seamlessly. And I feel like it's because of the environment that Maresca has helped build and how these players are all on the same page, not just Andrey Santos, not just João Pedro, but the likes of Reece James being a captain behind the scenes. The likes of Enzo Fernandez stepping up to be that vice captain and being a pillar in Cobham. We hear that from the Argentinians as well. And I feel like everyone's in this same boat. They're all this like togetherness. They want to work hard. And one thing that we hear from all of the players, regardless of nationalities or anything like that, the mindset is the same. And they all say the same thing. We want to win and I have to help my teammates win. There's not one person that comes out and says, I want to be the man. It's all about me, which you wouldn't expect them to do. They're all PR trained, of course, but they're also very young. They're also very young players that are growing, basically on the job and with their teammates at the same time. And I think over the years, it's going to form an unbreakable bond. I really, really do. And I feel like we're starting to see elements of that with certain parts of the camp at the moment, with the likes of Cucurella, Enzo, Caicedo, Reece James all being part of that sort of core from the initial takeover, right? Obviously Reece James prior to that as well, but forming them friendships and them foundations. And then when you have the likes of Estevao coming in, when you've already got Andrey Santos, João Pedro coming in and settling in straight away, it's just really nice to see. But Andrey Santos speaks a little more specifically about helping Estevao. It's important to help each other like Estevao. Sometimes I have to translate something for him, and I think that is so important for me and the other players too. I speak French, English, Portuguese, and of course Spanish too. I think it's so important to speak a lot of languages because it's good for my communication in the dressing room with my teammates. This is awesome. I love the fact that Andrey Santos can speak multiple languages at such a young age. And I know that it's very much encouraged when it comes to a lot of players that have coming from overseas to learn the language of either English or other languages as well. It's pretty much instilled into like the club's culture. And it's been like that for years and years. I remember Gary Lineker speaking about when he went to Barcelona, him having Spanish lessons and trying to really, get to grips with the Spanish language to be able to communicate better in the dressing room. So I think it's kind of a given, but it also is a testament to mindset to come in across the world, go to these different clubs, settling in and going, I actually need to learn these languages because I want to be able to communicate better. It's going to help my performances on the pitch and the teams because we can all talk to each other. So I like the fact that, again, everyone seems to look at Estevao as like their little brother. That's what it seems to come across as, which I absolutely love because everyone's looking out for him and making sure he is coming in and, adapting well, and it is seamless for him. And you can see it sort of reflected with Estevao in terms of his confidence when he's performing, the fearlessness of him, the happiness that he shows, what he's doing on the pitch and off the pitch as well. You kind of see from him just kind of spending time with his family. He's so football focused, doesn't want that nightlife sort of lifestyle. It's just so nice to see. And the fact that it actually surprises me that he speaks, 1, 2, 3, 4 languages at his age. That's wild. But it is just a sort of testament of like how everyone's trying to help each other. And I really do think we're going to elevate as a team doing that. So I'd very much like to know your thoughts and opinions regarding Andrey Santos, or actually the Brazilian Trinity. Do you feel like this is something that's completely, isolated between them in terms of how they're trying to get on? Is it something that's been instilled by Maresca in the environment that's been created by him and the other players like your Fernandez's, like your Reece James, and the experienced elder ones, which is wild to say because they're all still very young? And just your overall thoughts and opinions on where you think Andrey Santos' best position is. Is it as a 6 or is it as a number 8? Sam C reports that Chelsea coaches are said to appreciate Garnacho's willingness to stay behind after training sessions to sharpen his finishing and crossing, viewing that dedication as a strong indicator of his mindset. Those inside Garnacho's camp say he's taking everything in and remains eager to impress. Off the field, the winger is believed to be settling comfortably into London life. Now, I really like hearing this about Garnacho because I feel like there is still pockets of fans, or an overall debate to have between fans, whether Garnacho is going to kick on and be a good player for Chelsea. And I feel like it is a little bit too early to tell. I feel like we know Garnacho a little bit because he's played in the Premier League for a few seasons. We've seen the highs and lows of him at another club, and I feel like he's really trying a lot to settle into Chelsea. He's trying a lot to win over the fans. He's trying a lot to perform well on the pitch. So again, like I said in the previous segment, I love hearing the behind the scenes stuff like this. Whether or not this is PR or not is going to be a different question, right? But I like reacting to stuff like this and having conversation with you guys because what they're basically saying is he's not doing any shenanigans. He's coming into training, working hard, staying late to try and work on his finishing, work on his crossing. He wants to impress Maresca. He wants to impress his teammates, wants to impress the fans, really wants it to go well. And I just have to take my hats off. Like I respect players that are willing to put in that extra graft. I always remember growing up, so many players that used to say that Lampard did that. He would finish training with everyone else and then he'd spend an extra few hours doing free kicks or penalties or, first touch shooting or whatever it may be to really improve his game and make sure he was 1 step ahead, 2 steps ahead of opposition. And he was always sharper and, that compounds over time. And ultimately, he went on to be one of Chelsea's best ever players, right? Now, I'm not saying that Garnacho is going to do that, but having that mindset of being like, right, first one in, last one out, that compounds over time. So it also reflects like his attitude. His attitude seems to be a problem for a lot of people, and I get it, I hear it. I've seen times where Garnacho's kind of had a bit of a strop, thrown his toys out the pram, and it's frustrating. But I feel like since he's been in a Chelsea shirt, he's really trying to curb that and trying to channel it. Now, when he was substituted in the last game, he looked so annoyed. And he almost like didn't shake Maresca's hand. You could see there's a video from behind where he's kind of half-hearted, whatever. And you can see he's very disappointed in himself. Now, disappointed in himself or disappointed he's been substituted. Regardless, he looks annoyed. Now, I don't think that is an attitude problem in terms of he's taking that out on Maresca and saying, why have you taken me off? I think he's looking inwards of saying, I've not done enough on the pitch to stay on the pitch. And I quite like that because you can use that fuel to then train harder, to then fight for your place. And at the moment, that left wing position is a competition continuously, and it will be all season. Gittins needs to continue to perform to the standards he's at to lock down his position. Garnacho needs to improve to then knock Gittins off of his position and then maintain it. And I feel like those two, because they are young and they are developing and they're new into this system, they have such a good opportunity. Now, I've said this many a times since Gittins' performance against Wolves. I said he should have started. It should be merit of performance, in my opinion, and momentum. They're very much confidence players. Garnacho played well. He got his first Chelsea goal. And then the next game, Gittins comes on, or plays against Wolves. He gets 2 assists and scores a banger. And then Garnacho starts the next game. Now, you can see from Gittins, he wasn't sort of frustrated or annoyed by that. He then came on the pitch and tried doing his best. I feel like at the moment, Gittins is in a better run of form, and it looks like the better player. It's taking him a bit longer to settle in. But I like the fact that when you hear stuff like this, Garnacho isn't throwing his toys out of the pram. He understands that there's competition. He understands he's got to work harder to get in that first team. And obviously, he's going to want to do that. So I quite like this. I like the fact that it's being noticed and recognised. Again, is it a PR move? I don't know, because of the whole attitude thing. I personally feel like it was just him at United. It was a very toxic environment for not just him, for other players and all around. There's still a lot going on, and Amorim's trying to turn that around. And fair play to him. That's obviously not our business. But Garnacho was not scared to come out publicly and criticise Amorim or criticise the manager, anything like that. He's not doing that here at Chelsea. He's trying to get his head down and work hard. And I'm hoping that he reaps the benefits of that. He scored his first goal. Whether or not he starts tonight against Qarabag, we shall soon see. But I personally feel like right now it's Gittins in the lead on that left-hand side. If Garnacho overtakes it and performs well, I'm happy for that too. Because like I said, that left wing is full of competition right now. So I'd like to know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding Garnacho. Has your mind been changed with him? Do you feel like he still has an attitude problem? Think he is going to throw his toys out the pram? Or do you like the fact that what we're being reported and reacting to is him putting his head down, working hard and trying to do all the right things for his Chelsea career? Mundo Deportivo have reported that Chelsea and Manchester United are interested in signing Brazilian forward Vitor Roque from Palmeiras. The 20-year-old has scored 13 goals in the Brazilian Serie A this season. Now, I don't know whether this is just paper talk or if there's genuinely any concrete interest here, but Chelsea seem to be linked with a lot of South American players consistently. In yesterday's video, we were talking about Milton Delgado and how much he's almost like a South American wonder kid looking for that stepping stone into European football by going to Inter Miami. We're now linked with a Palmeiras striker, Vitor Roque, and to be honest, I know a little bit about this guy. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an expert because we saw him in the Club World Cup, and there was a couple of games when we weren't playing that I was just kind of flicking between, and he looks like a really good player. He joined in February of 2025 for around 25 million euros, which was a record for Palmeiras. And he is young, he's a very good profile, and from what I have seen of him and the stats that I've kind of looked at as well, he scored 13 goals in 31 appearances. Now, that isn't going to be tearing trees up, but that is a good return. It's nearly 1 in 2, really, there or thereabouts, which I think is a relatively decent return for a striker, in my opinion, especially at 20 years old. Now, he was at Barcelona. I believe that he was also in that same sort of, I can't remember the Spanish name that they use for it, the academy, as Mark Guiu. I believe in and around that, maybe a year or two apart, but around that sort of age group. And obviously they've both left Barcelona's academy, Guiu coming to us and having his sort of process and his journey. And, Roque now going to Palmeiras. Now, he seems to be enjoying life there. Obviously, we played against Palmeiras, and I don't know if he played, but I know that obviously Estevao scored against us. He's part of that system, that ecosystem that Chelsea know very well. So it'd be very interesting to know, one, if he's willing to come to Europe, two, how much Palmeiras would be wanting to get for him, considering they only signed him in February of this year for around 25 million euros. Now, is this a potential signing for Chelsea to go in, see it as a good market opportunity, go spend 30, 45 million, and try and flip him for profit in many years to come? Potentially. Is this a player that we could sign and, essentially do what we're doing with Estevao, where he's part of the future of Chelsea, but he might not necessarily, we sign him now and he doesn't join Chelsea until next season or the season after, like we've done with Cuenda, like we've done with Estevao. Essentially what we did with Santos, rather than loaning him to Strasbourg. That could also be an option, that we buy him in and then loan him to Strasbourg for a season. What I find quite interesting is Chelsea being linked with a lot of strikers in the last week or so. Now, yes, some of it is paper talk, some of it is waffle. That's why I like to react to it and ask your guys' opinions, because I'm just, you have some certain sources that are pretty much concrete and some that you're like, oh, this is interesting. What are you guys thinking about? Now, I would take him in a heartbeat purely because I feel like the profile he has and what I've seen of him, he looks like a very tidy striker that's going to go on and develop into a real good forward. But at the same time, I don't know if it makes sense for Chelsea to be buying a player like himself when you look at a current striking situation. You've got Delap, Mark Guiu, and João Pedro who can play there. But we've just signed Amiga. We can bring him in January. We can bring him in the summer. Whatever Chelsea decide to do is what they're going to decide to do. We're also linked with Panicelli, which is the other Strasbourg striker, who's on fire this season. Whether or not that is just, hype around his form, or we are genuinely interested, who knows? We'll see how that develops. We're also linked with two other strikers we're going to talk about in a second, which I think one makes sense, one doesn't. But again, we'll talk about that in just a second. This is more about Roque from Palmeiras. Like I said, he was a record signing for Palmeiras. He's doing well there. They're very happy with him. He seems to be happy there. Manchester United are looking at another forward. They've just signed Sesko. Maybe it's for a depth of squad. Who really knows? But it does confuse me when Chelsea link with strikers, knowing that it was a weakness of ours in the summer. And now it seems like as time's gone on, yes, Delap has been injured and Guiu was recalled. But we've got Guiu who's fit, touch wood. We've got Delap who's fit, touch wood. João Pedro who can play there and as a 10 as well. And we just signed Amiga as well. So what's the plan? If we bring in another forward, we then have to offload a couple, right? So that's where I kind of have question marks. You're going to get rid of someone like Mark Guiu, who we kind of know, we want him to be part of Chelsea's future. We know that he's developing. He has the opportunity to develop this season, but then you're going to offload him in the summer, maybe on loan or whatnot. So then bring another 20-year-old who has to adapt. Or again, is this a market opportunity to flip? Is this an opportunity to buy him and he signs in a couple seasons? Who really knows? Chelsea are always very active in the transfer market, especially when it comes to South American players. So I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below regarding Vitor Roque from Palmeiras. Have you seen much about him? Do you like him as a player? Do you think it makes sense for Chelsea to be going in for him? How much do you think that we would have to pay, considering Palmeiras had a record fee of him of 25 million euros just this February? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Tutto Sport have reported that reports in Italy claim that Canada international Johnathan David could leave Juventus in January if he doesn't get more playing time in the coming months, with both Chelsea and Tottenham interested. The London-based clubs are also interested in his teammate Dusan Vlahovic. This is very interesting now. Obviously, this is paper talk. Tutto Sport, they're sometimes on the money, they're sometimes not. But again, very interesting conversation to have for you guys, because I feel like the general consensus is Chelsea goes in for a striker, we need an experienced one. We need to bring someone inexperienced because we've got the players now that are going to be good for the future, like your Delaps, like your Guius. We know that João Pedro could play better as a 10, but can as a 9 as well. We've also signed Amiga. He's one for the future, right? We've just been linked with the guy from Palmeiras, Roque. What are we going to do with him? Is that even going to develop into anything, or is it just paper talk? There's two strikers in this report. Johnathan David, I would have signed him last season. This striker for me is very underrated and goes under the radar. I think he is incredible. He is a clinical finisher with a bit of pace, and he's very smart. He's got a footballing IQ to finish chances. When he was at Lille, he was linked with Chelsea, he was linked with Tottenham, he was linked with United. He was the striker this summer that everyone just kind of overlooked. And then you had the likes of Valdemar, we had the likes of Sesko, Gyökeres, Osimhen, all these other strikers that the limelight was on, and everyone was overlooking Johnathan David. He's still a very young striker. He has a very good goal-scoring record at Lille. He is not getting game time at Juventus. He obviously wants game time. He, for me, fits the project of what Chelsea are trying to build long-term, and I feel like he would be coming in with experience of just being a clinical goal scorer. Is he a similar profile to Delap? Is he a similar profile to Guiu? Is he a similar profile to Amiga or João Pedro? I don't know, you can make that argument, but he is an experienced striker who knows how to put the ball on the net. Relatively good in the air, can use both feet, he's quick. I think it makes a lot of sense. But again, this is paper talk. This is just me going off on a tangent. I would love to know your thoughts about Johnathan David down below. When it comes to Vlahovic, we have been linked with him for so many years. He is a goal scorer. He is a give me the ball, I'll put it in the net. He is very much a Delap in that sense, that Delap is not there to be the technical player linking up and, intricate player going around 3 or 4 players and finding positions and finding spaces to take them shots on. He's very much like Vlahovic in a sense of knock the ball long, he'll hold the ball up, he will turn and finish. That's what he'll work the channels, he'll get in positions, get him in a position where he can take a shot and he will put it in the net. I like Vlahovic. I think he's a very underrated forward in Europe. Maybe he's rated by a lot of other European teams, but I don't know. When I speak to Premier League football club fans, Vlahovic isn't really a name that comes up a lot. He scored some important goals. The big difference for me is his age. He isn't young enough to be going into this project. It is something that I don't think that the owners will go, actually, yeah, why not? We'll bring in Vlahovic. Unless he was going on a free, unless it was an incredibly good market opportunity, because they keep saying that. If it's a good market opportunity, we'll be sniffing around. So out of the two, I feel like Johnathan David ticks a lot of boxes and will make a lot of sense for us. I think he's just a very good forward. And I think Vlahovic is decent as well. I think he's got experience and he's scored a lot of goals. But I don't know what's going on at Juventus. There seems to be a lot of movement. We're also linked with Kin and Yildiz, which I think would be an incredible signing. But I don't see Juventus having a clear out in January or a clear out in the summer, letting go of Yildiz, letting go of David, letting go of Vlahovic, whoever it may be out of the two, letting go of other players. Maybe they need a rebuild. I'm not a Serie A expert. I don't know Juventus too well, other than what I see in terms of Champions League games and the odd Serie A games when they're on and I'm watching it. I don't know them in depth. I'm not a Juventus fan. So I don't know what would be better. And again, this is all paper talk. So when we link with these three strikers now, we add it all together. You got Roque from Palmeiras, a 20-year-old who's in good form, a product of Barcelona's academy. Johnathan David, who is experienced, who's not getting game time at Juventus and could be looking at a move away in January, who is a finisher and has got experience. Then Vlahovic, who in my opinion is a bit too old for the project, still very experienced, good in the air, good finisher. They're the three that we're linked with. But then I always go back to this. Chelsea's situation of strikers right now is Delap, Guiu and Amiga that's coming in either January or summer, which will more likely be the summer. And we've got João Pedro who can play 9 as a 10. So what do we do? Is there anything to this? Is it all waffle? If it isn't waffle and there is something to it, out of those two players, who would you rather us sign? I would personally go for Johnathan David, but I would love to know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding the striking situation, who we've been linked with, and who do you think makes the most sense for Chelsea to go and sign? You could just argue that because it's a South American player in Roque, we go for him, we overspend, and maybe he has a Ballon d'Or clause, and he joins the squad in the next couple of years. Who knows? Because Chelsea are very good at signing players for the future to then even come in. Like I said, with the likes of Estevao, we signed him. He had to wait a year to come in. We've got Cuenda coming at the end of this season. A few more players along those vein as well. So let me know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding the striking situation and the three strikers we've been linked with. What would you do? And that's the latest Chelsea news. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported down below in the comment section. I love having a conversation with you guys. And if you have watched this video all the way to the end, firstly, you're a real one. And I mean that, you're a real one. But secondly, there'll be a thumbnail appears on the screen. So if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content, make sure you click that thumbnail because you'll enjoy that video too.